Yes.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of PerFORM Music Incubator Podcast. We're so happy that you're joining us. PerFORM Music Incubator is an artistic development and music business skills development incubator. Here we are upskilling the whole music industry, songwriters, artists, music producers, event producers, promoters, managers, publicists, name it. The whole point is to get the whole chain working. And we're so happy to be sharing some insights with you in this podcast series. Today's episode is really interesting and it's really around artistic development, promotion of your music, thinking through the platforms. Who do you need? How do you grow? How do you approach those collaborators? And I'm super happy to be joined by two professionals from the industry. My homies Chaxy.
What up?
And Jinx.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to let you introduce yourselves, please.
Okay. So I think for the purposes of this conversation, I'd say I'm a film producer one.
Okay.
And then I do many other things within the music industry. So it's possible you'd bump into me in the studio when a song is being made, or I'll be doing a rollout for an artist tomorrow. Yeah, so a bunch of, it's like an octopus.
A bit of a connector.
Yeah, I'm a connector. Many tentacles within the music industry, yeah. Mainly.
I'd probably say the same thing.
Yeah.
I've worked as an A&R, artist manager, club promoter, event manager, and many other things, I guess.
Yes.
Of
Now
course,
into
started
streaming now.
working at a DSP now, Boomplay, of course, and worked as a media personality where we did also a lot of great work, to drive agendas of local hip hop especially. So been around, seen a lot, and I'm happy to be here to share this space with you.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
We thought it'd be really cool to have you guys with us today to have, just to unpack this conversation around what happens next after I've written my song. Because this is it's a very daunting experience.
Even as you're writing the song.
Actually, even as you're writing the song. You're right.
Yeah.
So let's actually begin there.
Yeah.
So I'm in studio or I'm at home and I'm writing my artistic work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm writing this song. Tell us some insights that you have found to be true around sort of that personal expression and how that then meets the consumer, my intended audience.
Yeah.
What I found to be true as an artist is authenticity. You have to write the thing that is true for you.
Yeah.
And whether you are writing as an observer, whichever voice you decide to take, you can take it as an observer. It can be a hypothetical situation that you're writing, but it's got to be true for you, right? So that it can be meaningful for somebody else when they hear it.
That's true.
I don't know what you have found to be true.
I've seen that your own personal growth as an individual is almost directly linked to your ability as a songwriter. And, if you find your tribe, so to speak, when you find the people that, ground you and help you maneuver through this craziness that is life, and just when you're able to manage your own personal struggles better, it directly translates into how you can express. So I think the first thing is to really have solid people in your corner. And even in studio, I've seen that it helps when you have those same people around you in that environment. When an artist is calm and is happy or doesn't feel pressured into doing anything, when you're around your people, so to speak, when you're comfortable, you get the best results. That's the first thing I see. And again, constantly working on yourself. And in personal growth, I always say, as an artist, you're a reflection of society. So you have to take in a lot of what society has. So whether it's reading books, watching documentaries, really unpacking movies, unpacking other music. You should constantly be seeking new information and unpacking existing, to kind of like have a holistic view of really what's going on around you.
And maybe from experience doing interviews, I've had a guest who literally sat across me and lied to me for 1 hour straight. I'm serious. And even all through it, it's wild. And I know, but then I'm like, okay, so now if I start checking everything, it now begins to feel like an interrogation. I'm just like, you know what, you to co-op now, just roll with the lies. So exactly. And I feel like even with music, it's very easy, especially if it's an artist, maybe I'm familiar with their work. I don't even need to know them in person. It's very easy to know from a song that, oh, okay, Appa, we are forcing issues. You know, Amma, this really feels natural. This feels like it really came from somewhere. I think for me, it's when you hear a song and you can't place where this song came from, you know, and it's very easy to pick that. So if, I think one, environment is very key, and it goes back to, I don't think we should, and musicians especially should have pressure to do music. You know, if the environment is not right, if it's mentally you're not in that space, if it's the producers you have access to, if it's a bad studio, like there's no rush. You know, the good thing about music is not like athletics, summer sports, 18, Icona Prime. You can do music your whole life. So I think it just give it time. Like there's certain things that need to be right for you to tap into yourself and make good music. And if those things are not right, then there's no point of doing it. Because we can tell. Don't force it.
Got you. So I think in the next part of this conversation, I really want to tap into this idea of how to grow the music side of an artist brand, right? So, you know, as you are quite well aware, a music brand and an artist's, the music side of the brand is the pride. That's where everything starts, right? Everything begins at sort of the music, and then you build out all these other brand attributes. So I really want us to spend some time thinking about the music side of the artist brand, right? And so the thing for me here is to first think through this idea of artistic growth. So when I started, I remember one of the things that the older artists would say all the time is, don't make the assumption that just because you're singing, you're becoming better at singing. And that you have to that you have to invest in developing the craft, you know. And when you start, you know, I began my career by first doing vocal classes and sort of thinking through composition, even before we had declared that we are a unit that is making music, right? But I didn't find that to be common practice. And so at some point I thought, like, am I doing the most? Am I doing too much? Right? Am I taking too classical an approach in making sure that I'm always like sort of learning how to sing, like literally to this thing called your instrument, making the instrument better and better. And then another thing I'd hear a lot from the people who are in the industry already is that stagecraft isn't natural, it's learned. But nobody really was teaching it. And so artists only get into rehearsal the week when they have a gig, if even.
And what is mostly considered rehearsal is literally just arrangement with the band.
Correct.
And then it ends there.
Yeah, if even.
That's if you're playing with the band.
Right. I want us to share some insights around this idea of artistic development, right? Because my view is that you're not sugarcane. You're not just going to grow. It's like an athlete, right? You're not going to end up being the Kobe Bryant of your time by just like shooting some hoops outside your mom's house. There's an actual science, there's a rhythm.
100%.
I don't know if you have any insights around having been around artists long enough. I don't know, Chaxy, if you have something to start us off on.
So if I use maybe an example of an F1, like the Formula 1 cars, you know. So you look at a team like Mercedes, there's two drivers, they have the same car, same engine. But there's one who's always winning and one who's not winning as much, you know. And with F1, it's literally whoever finishes first, you know. So it's different from what you define success in music. You know, that there'd be different definitions. But then I've been around artists that are more, you feel like they're more intentional with what they're doing. And then I've been around artists who feels like this is fun, so we're gonna ride with it. So there's those who are more strategic. They take time into their writing. They involve other people into their process. You know, they're always seeking for new ways. So my next single, what can I do differently? So there's those, and then there's it's vibes. So we keep it moving, and it's very possible that even the vibes, let's keep it moving, could like blow up in terms of what we call blowing up, right? And then, but in terms of fulfillment, there's a very big difference. So I think there's power that comes with intention as well. So being very intentional, not just all of us are winging it somehow, but then to what levels are we winging it? You know? Yeah. So if you can reduce just kidogo those levels of winging it, and then we are in a bit more control.
Correct.
We're in more control of the craft.
Your own craft. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel you. I mean, I feel like we do need to standardize some of these things. Even when, as bookers, when you're booking talent for shows, it has to be standardized that, you know, if you don't attend rehearsals, we're going to deduct a fee from your booking. You know, like you have to show up for rehearsals. Like this is standard.
You have to be able to sing on key when you come on stage.
So as far as artistic development, I feel like it hasn't been preached enough, and some of these guys feel like superheroes, especially when they have a hit record. So I have a hit record. I'm gonna show up. I'm gonna give the DJ my flash. I'm gonna tell him play track 2, and the guys are gonna go crazy. But what happens after is, you need another hit. Now, there's people who had hits in the 90s that are still on the road because they worked on that, on the craft, as far as stage, as far as, your vocals. So when you rely on hype, it dies the same way. I need to commend you specifically, and I do feel like you had, because you mentioned, how you started we're beginning this conversation. I felt like you had an identity straight off the bat. You came out ready. You had gone through the motions of maybe failing without people seeing. You'd gone through the motions of making some incredible stuff without people hearing it. So even like personally for you, you had so much growth before you presented your body of work to the world. And that shows in how you receive criticism, in how you defend yourself. Because most people don't even have the voice to defend themselves when people come for them. Because I feel like they haven't quite understood themselves. So when people question you, you question yourself too. But it's different for people who've actually gone through development, because you're like, no. I know why I did this.
I'm solid. This is the way I see it. Without denying you the right to see the way you do.
Exactly.
Yeah, for me, I really want to agree with you around this idea of mastery of the craft.
Yeah.
Because I feel that, or my perspective here is, artistry, sana, is a lifelong calling. We haven't been fortunate enough to see the generation of incredible musicians who went before us. There just wasn't an infrastructure to allow them to be artists for life here, right? We didn't see artists becoming better at their craft and more commercially viable, actually, the older they became, in the way I would say South Africans had Hugh Masekela and Miriam Makeba, to, young people could see like, oh, this thing is a real life thing. It's a lifelong thing. There's nothing like retirement from an art career, I feel like Beyonce had Tina Turner, to show her like, oh, this thing is a lifelong thing. So I don't think we've had the benefit yet, but I'm looking forward to us sort of being the first class of artists who are professional artists our whole life. But when you perceive it from that idea, like you're going to be an artist for your whole life, then just like an athlete, right? An athlete is an athlete for their whole life. They may stop competing at some point, but that is it's a
That's who you are.
It's who you are.
Yeah.
I mean, you build your whole life around being an
Exactly.
athlete.
Yeah.
So
Your
then it
business
really
is-
feels like denying yourself the tools when you don't take the time to develop the craft.
Yeah.
Because, when you're several years into your career and you want your career, not even several years, let's even look at, say, the pacing of someone like Adele, Adele's career. Adele lives her life, goes through things, writes you some music, brings it to you, then she's like, see you later. I'm going to live my life again.
She made Spotify
But
remove the shuffle button.
like literally.
Like that's how powerful this album is. Shout out to Adele.
But I think it just adds to what you're saying. Even subconsciously, as human beings and especially as artists, visibility is very key. So if you see something all through, maybe when you're growing up and everything, then it becomes a normal thing. It's like, this is the norm. We do dope things here. This is what performances look like. So you see it. So by the time you're becoming your own artist and beginning to make your own craft, there's already like not even a standard, but there's a foundation there,
It's true.
But then if I look at
Beyonce is because Michael Jackson should have.
exactly. So if I look at maybe you, Muthoni, right? I mean, where who did you see growing up? Who put on like good shows? You know, thinking about just the performance, the lighting, the costumes. Like the whole thing, which encompasses a good show, because we are very visual with IG and everything. We are attracted to visuals, So who did you see growing up? I don't know.
Honestly, it was Michael Jackson. It was
but I'm saying locally,
no,
it wasn't. So even with like an ethic and all this Gengeton kids, then even them it feels like they're just forging their own path.
Everybody is.
Everyone is.
Which is why we love them so much.
Yeah. So then that means
complete grace.
For us to turn this around, then the guys, the people who are actively involved right now have to be intentional about it and make it happen. Like what Jinx is saying, standardize it.
Yeah.
Like let's just do dope shows.
Yeah.
Then we turn it around so that the next person who's coming up, they have something to see and be like, oh shit, this is how a good show is done. Or from here now, let me top it up.
Yeah, picking up on that, I would say like it always takes a village. I generally feel like more artists should explore getting help, be open to new ideas
from artists in
other fields. This over-reliance on the actual, record. And it's good, guys have made great records. But for your development, it's so important to be able to take in new ideas from, people in film, people in media.
Stand-up theater.
You understand? Comedians.
People who have to just on the fly.
Because as creatives, you can all learn from each other. Like even people in the business of creatives, like myself and Chaxy and even you. I mean, sharing in business, sharing within your creative, sharing within your creation process with all these people will add something. Like you've just pulled some really great examples of guys who are not necessarily fellow artists, but they gave you so much value in your artistry. So I think it takes a village and you should be open.
I agree with you. And also, I think the advantage you have is we have access to a lot of information. And then we are exposed, right? Especially now, we're exposed to this really high-end, well-produced, well-curated productions that probably cost millions of money. And that's what everyone wants. But then before we are able to get to that, there's these small things that could really make a difference. I've seen Kaboshi practice in his just a small corner, but the way he's doing it, he's trying different movements on that small corner, and you see, if you get that right, now you can translate that into a bigger stage. So those small things, and I think the biggest the biggest thing that someone who's beginning can take advantage of is small gigs, because small gigs allow you to experiment and try a lot of things in a very intimate audience that you can feed off energy very easily, as opposed to 5,000 people in an arena. So all those friends who are busy, all those guys who are busy doing to small gigs here and there, your friend who's trying to be an actor, like you said, your friend who has interest in sound, or your friend who just likes
saying.
lights and those
Yeah.
are the guys you should take advantage of. Your friend who just has a camera and just likes to go to a bright and take pictures or try shoot different things. I think that's where it begins, because those small things are what, if you master those small things, then you're able to translate and amplify that into the bigger stage. Because you could have that bigger stage with all the resources and the money, but then are you still going to put on a good show? Yeah.
Another thing I struggle with, maybe as we close on development, I usually struggle with, why is it that we don't see the opportunity, or let me not say we, but the market, let me say. It seems like the market doesn't see the opportunity in scaling these support structures for the artist. When we talk about publicists, it's a handful. When we talk about entertainment lawyers, it's a handful. When we talk about agents, it's almost non-existent. In advertising agencies, I don't know one that has a music department. Like, it's these supporting structures that kind of also make it possible for the artist to focus on the music, and then these other things are kind of put in place for them to kind of like go into a plug and play system, can also go a long way in scaling our industry by having many acts doing it at a high level. Because I feel like we do have acts that really do it at a high level, but it's a small group that I feel like it sets us back when we're trying to export this whole Kenyan thing, because now when you talk Kenya in other places, they'll mention two names, or two or three names, and it's over. And we have so much more, and the potential of our export potentiality is so immense. I just wonder why the market doesn't see the gap.
I think a thing that is severely underrated for rappers is the idea of co-writing, almost frowned upon, and such an easy and effective way to become, a good writer, right? So again, you could co-write with a rapper to learn technique. You can learn technique through imitation of different rappers to find what you like, different pockets. But you could also do collaborations with the writers. And I find that it's quite frowned upon almost. It's like you should be ashamed that you don't write all your raps. Where does it come from? And I feel like it limits so many people from really advancing this rap technique, this rap language. I wonder.
Singers do it all the time, man. You look at the credits of singers, there's so many writers, and so that's why sometimes those songs sound so good.
And that
Where does that come from?
It comes from not being able to separate the music business from the streets. Like, this hip hop has this background of, mainly, let me say, it's evolved for sure. But at the core of it, you essentially have these guys who lived a certain lifestyle in the streets that now, talk about that life as their way out. That's usually the archetype for the most part, right? So when you come from this lifestyle and it's macho and it's your life, like I'm a real nigga and I really came on, I really did that. So when someone else writes it, then it kind of takes away from you being this real street guy.
But it doesn't really take away from
it. Doesn't. It doesn't. It's really perception. Yeah, it's you not deciding that I'm an entertainer and I'm not really this street guy. It comes from
or I'm a storyteller.
You're a storyteller. So it comes from this denial. It comes from this denial of bro, you're an entertainer now. Can you please give us the best entertainment possible? And when you talk to a lot of these guys, they still want to, hang out in the joints where guys are doing XYZ to still feel the thrill of, so they can write authentically. But I'm like, you can still do, if you've already lived that lifestyle. And I struggle with this a lot, honestly, because I deal with hip hop for the most part. You can move away from that lifestyle entirely and represent that culture. Just look at Jay-Z, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I'm pretty sure the last time Jay did anything in the streets was in the 90s. I'm pretty
Like
sure.
just hanging out in the hood.
But listen to 444 or listen to anything he's done in the last 5-10 years and tell me he still doesn't represent his people in Marcy, in Brooklyn. He still does at a high level, and he's in the studio with Justin Timberlake. Cutting records and really elevating his style and his writing. He's in the studio with Kanye West.
So what we're saying to rappers is don't be limited or afraid to bring in other people to help you with storytelling technique.
And also let this whole street thing go. You represent it. Now, I'm not saying let it go as in it's not a part of you. It's a part of you for sure. But you have to make that clear distinction. Yeah. Am I an entertainer or am I a guy in the streets? You have to decide. You can't be both. You cannot be both. So if you're an entertainer, then okay, let's do what's best for entertainment. Yeah. And if you decide you're going to be in the streets, then that's your prerogative, Yeah. But that's all I'm saying.
For this and so many more insights, I encourage you to stay with us on today's amazing episode.